Well, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, and so we'll go ahead and begin our hearings for the Town of Canandaigua Zoning Board of Appeals. It's our custom to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and then a brief moment of silence for our servicemen and women.
I've been responding for literally ever. Finally.
We'd invite everyone if they
I don't die.
you can mute everyone except for me.
Yeah, 1 second. John, I'm getting a bit of feedback from you, so I gotta mute you.
All right, we'll join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. We'll begin with our first new public hearing. This is for property on Canandaigua Farmington Town Line Road. The address is 0000. The applicant is Leo Gineco and Sons. They're seeking 2 lot size area variances and 2 lot width area variances for a 3-lot subdivision.
Who's presenting this tonight? I thought Rocco was going to be here. I see Anthony's on the call.
Actually, it's Rocco. He might be
Rocco.
too, but I'm on.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you, Rocco. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is kind of a continuation of some affordable housing that's along Mobile Road. We've got probably 8 or 10 properties that Dave has developed over the last couple of years. It's a private road. And right now there's a deal in place with the town to put a road through this property, but that's not what we're looking at now, but that's on its way. But this mobile road is going to come in, and right now a little hammerhead. And because of the zoning, there's am I correct? There's 3 zoning districts or 2, Eric?
3.
3. So what we're trying to do is make those lots. I'm not sure of the size, and I'm not sure. I think one of the zones is AR2, another zone is maybe R130 and R120, or maybe a commercial zone. I'm not clear on that, and I'm on the phone, so I don't have a drawing in front of me.
We have it pulled up here. These are in the AR2, kind of the more northern portion of this lot as it connects to Canandaigua Farmington Town Line Road is in the R120. And there is a portion of this in the community commercial, but I don't have it.
Now, are my lots 20,000 square foot, Eric, or are they less than that?
One of them is 0.5 acres. The other one is 0.37 acres.
So the one definitely is, and the other one's a little under. So that's what we'd like to do, is get permission to, they probably don't meet the width requirements either. So we're looking for probably an area for width and size.
That's right. Each of these lots needs a variance for lot width, and each of them needs one for lot size as well.
Correct.
So Rocco, and just so we understand the full long-term plan here, you were referencing an agreement with the town to put in a road?
Yeah. So right now there's something at table, and Eric could probably talk more intelligently about it. Maybe I shouldn't even be talking about it. I don't think it's top secret. I know people at the town know what's happening, but the town has agreed to. Go ahead, Eric. You explain it.
So the Town of Canandaigua Farmington Water District worked for a while to design a large water main that kind of runs through this process. And kind of in the time that they were doing that, they had an idea for putting a road kind of over top the same part. So last year, I believe they finalized an easement right away to go through this parcel with the intent of at some point putting in a roadway connecting Purdy Road and Canandaigua Farmington Town Line Road. But at least in the immediate term, putting in a water transmission line and connection of the Auburn Trail. So the town has been talking with the property owner about how best to put that road in, what process, all that good stuff. So it's something that the town is working on in a conversation with them in the last couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago now. The timeline was something like 2022 or so.
So this road, Eric, is planned to connect a mobile road, or are they going to eminent domain one of those residential parcels on Purdy to connect to Purdy?
So it's going to come out on Purdy.
Yeah, so the Stella's, I'm not sure who exactly is, but one of the Genecos or one of their companies purchased this parcel, and they provided an easement over this parcel as well. Okay. So it wouldn't have to be through eminent domain. They've provided that. And then there's always kind of a concept of connecting mobile road as well. And MRB did a kind of mock-up of that.
So what would the purpose of that road be? I mean, it doesn't really relate to our application tonight, but it's like a road to nowhere for no purpose.
Of the proposed future town road or the mobile road?
No,
it's essentially to connect Purdy and Canandaigua Farmington Town Line Road. I would imagine to relieve some of the traffic at the intersection right there so that people can access the light at the border. But
the Purdy Road and 332 is accident prone. There's no light there, and it's kind of a bottleneck. So I think they're trying to alleviate that. And with the water main issue, I think they're just trying to pull it all together and tie it together.
And then I think probably the third point. Hold on, Rocco. The third point is that this is part of the town's MUO2 area. It's kind of a gateway MUO district. And so having this access road provides interior access to this parcel and potentially might allow that development to kind of make it that gateway area.
All right. Well, let's get back to this one. I guess that was a non-essential detour. Do we have any questions from anyone on the board about this application for the subdivision to create these two new lots?
If I read the environmental conservation report on this, it appeared to me that some of these lots were already narrower than what is required by the district. Am I correct when I say that? Some of the existing lots?
I believe that's correct. Certainly they're not, they're in the AR2, so certainly they're not in line with that, but I'm not even sure some of the ones that are back in R120 are, I don't think they're of sufficient width or size, all of them. No, that's correct. You're correct.
Yeah, I think that's the way I read the report, that some of the existing lots were already narrower than what was required by the zoning.
But what we've tried to do here is, there's a little bit of a buzzword around the town of affordable housing, and we've actually put affordable homes in there, so it's kind of the target. And in order to do that, we don't need big lots, 2-acre lots.
Understood. Thank you.
Wouldn't it make sense to look at this whole area as a coordinated effort to try to figure out the road and the lots, etc., instead of trying to piecemeal this thing together and come up with Lord knows what?
I agree, but this is the way it was presented to me, you know, this is what the client wants to do. And, you know, 2022 is a long way and they have two people who want to build in there. I just, to continue it for 2 more lots, to me, doesn't seem to be a real issue, and we certainly can work around it. If we were going to continue it for 10 more lots, well, I think what's going to happen here is Mobile Road just going to die into this new road, and that'll be the end of it. So I think we're almost at the terminus of Mobile Road, and this ain't going to happen again. And rumor has it that this, if he develops along the new road, it's going to be rental units. So, you know, I think this is like a one-time deal, but don't hold me to it because things change, you know.
What other questions do we have from the board?
I'm in the valley of confusion here. I'm feeling like I understand what's on paper, but there seems, with the other agenda that's being expressed, and I appreciate the candor, I'm confused.
Well, I understand the confusion, but you know, that's something that hangs out there and it's going to happen. And right now, we're just asking for these 2 things. I think they're intermingled, but then again, I'm not sure one affects the other, except that, you know, Mobile Road is getting out there pretty long and needs to have, you know, an exit point, and it's going to have that with this new road. So, if that's a concern of anybody's.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm just, to me, if Mobile Road's going to end, maybe we could draw it where it needs to be. So we're trying to figure out what we're dealing with lot sizes. We don't know where the lots are going to be. We don't know where the road's going to go.
Okay. We do know where the road's going to go. Eric, if you could point out where that road is, it's on the map.
Yeah, the road is very much set in stone. Like I said, the easement and everything is already in place. It's this dashed line right there.
So Mobile Road will just come and T-intersect into it. And I don't think it's very far away from the end where we are now.
Well, yeah, there might be a better way to do that than to come in. If you're going to come in here at an angle like that on a road, I mean, we got enough angles on the road to Canandaigua. I mean, it looks like it's coming in at, I mean, the angle there is about a 45 degrees to make a turn right or left and off of Mobile Road onto what's the name of this next road going to be?
I'm just not sure. I don't have the drawing in front of me. I'm not sure how much distance we have from where the end of these lots are to the new road. What would you guesstimate it at, Eric?
Maybe 20 feet.
Maybe 50 to 75 feet.
This might be a good point. It might be something we should look at. But we might have to curve Mobile Road to make it, because we certainly don't want to come in on a 45-degree angle.
Rocco, you're on the phone, so you can't see it right now, but MRB Group did do like a mock-up, like a kind of a draft, I guess, of what the road might look like when it's connected.
Okay. Can you show everybody that?
Yeah, I have it up right here. And so it isn't connected on that like sharp angle like you had not really shown, but that you would kind of connect it there. It makes a turn to the south, Mobile Road, to connect at essentially 90 degrees.
But this plan there isn't. This plan doesn't show the new parcels, though. This is basically coming in off of the last of the existing parcels.
Correct.
So you're going to have to extend that road with that hammerhead function right out to where it's almost touching, if not into the new road.
That's correct.
And that's a little bit of my concern. I think lot 7 could fit very well. The way it's currently proposed with the hammerhead and the new road overlapping each other for lot 8, I think that's a little problematic.
What if we reconfigure that?
Well, I have faith in you, Rocco, that you guys could reconfigure it, but I don't know what that would look like until I see it. I think there's surely a way it could be done safely.
Well, so what if we table this and come back next month, and I show you how it could work, and maybe everybody would feel more comfortable with it? Because I don't want to make you guys vote for something that you don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for everyone else on the board. I'm not, just me individually, I'm not opposed to the idea of 2 new lots, extending that lot group of 6 into 8. I think the lots as proposed are pretty well in line in terms of shape and size with the other lots. I'm just not comfortable with the way that these roads are lining up. That's my concern.
The more you speak about it, the less comfortable I am. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Does anyone else on the board have any concern with extending it, out a month? And
I think that's a great idea.
All right.
All right. Let me go back.
I'll make a motion then that we adjourn this application to our November date. I don't have that off the top of my head, but 3rd Tuesday, whatever that comes out to be.
November 17th.
November 17th. Anyone second that motion?
A second.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a second. I don't know who was first, but I'll say that one's from Dave. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks, Rocco. We'll look for you next month then.
Thanks for the input, everybody. I appreciate it. And Eric, you'll reschedule the planning board meeting appropriately, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. We won't have to go to planning board just to go over it, right?
No, shouldn't.
I don't want to show up to the planning board until we get the variance resolved.
Yeah, I mean, the planning board
thanks.
procedures say they won't hear it until the zoning board decides.
Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, you too.
Sure.
Oh, just so everybody knows, I've been out in a tree stand hunting, so that's pretty cool actually.
Yes.
See ya.
See ya.
Take care.
All right, our next application is for property at 3209 Daisy Way. The applicant is seeking a rear setback area variance for the installation of an in-ground swimming pool. Property owners are Jamie and Sarah Farr.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to present. I think Eric's trying to find our document.
That's right.
So our home is in the old Brookside development on 3209 Daisy Way. The lot sizes are fairly small, as you're probably aware. I don't think that's the one. If you want to trade me for a lake home, that's fine. Oh, okay. So what we're really looking for, this is our lot, is to install an in-ground pool. It's 14 by 24 feet. But what we need is a 3 feet 8 inch variance to the back green space in order to fit it. That puts the pool just over 6 feet away from the house, which is a little bit closer than what we like to do. It's hard to get equipment in there to backfill. And so, but we'll have to do it by hand. And so really what we're looking for is just a little bit of a variance here on the backside. We're fine on the side. We have the necessary 10 or more to our neighbors on the side. But to the back, they're very small lots. We had a hard time even fitting the house in the lot to begin with when we built it. I don't know, maybe if it's beneficial to show some of the back pictures from the back, that would be helpful. The pool will have a 3 feet. And so where the shed is in this photograph is where the pool would go. The shed we've already moved. Just in anticipation and hopes. The ground is a little bit more solid right now than it is in the spring and early summer. So it would really kind of go right where that shed is beside the patio. It would have, like I said, a 3 foot surround. We would fence the entire backyard. And again, that's just a different angle to kind of show you So really the end of this patio where the wood rack is, just barely beyond there is the end of our property line. That's how small the lots are. We had initially intended to put the pool on the other side of the patio, but there's just not enough room at all to put anything in. And so the dashed line is about where the back property line is. You can kind of see an estimation. And so it'll be done, you know, it'll look nice. You know, we'll put a fence around and some shrubbery and make it look like it's natural and it fits in. So again, this back dotted line is where we need the variance, 3 feet, 8 inches. We can't put the pool in far enough so that we have the necessary 10 feet. What we'll actually have is 6 feet, 5 inches to the 3 foot surround of the pool.
And you also submitted this petition for the board as well.
So I have a neighbor 2 or 3 houses down who also received a variance for the in-ground pool. I think their variance was not to the green space, but to a neighbor. And so what I did was I visited all the neighbors who backed to the green space on my side of the street and asked that they would support it. I explained what I was trying to do and they all signed and supported it. The only signature I didn't get is 3221 Daisy Way. I'm certain he would have signed it, but he's an older gentleman that is really trying to be cautious and socially distance, and he stays in his house most of the time, and I didn't want to make him uncomfortable. And then 3213, there is no address with that. Maybe it was the number 13 that made people feel weird and didn't want to use it. Not sure what the reasoning is. That's really it, pretty simple.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board for the applicant?
Do we have a coverage issue on this with this variance?
No, there's no lot coverage requirements in the PUD. And as a pool, it wouldn't count towards building coverage.
Okay.
This is green space behind you. There's no houses going in there. That's going to stay the way it is, right?
That's right. It'll be forever. I'm sorry, go ahead, Eric.
I just said it's owned by the town of Canandaigua.
Eric, I have a question for my own edification.
Sure.
If someone was going to put in a sidewalk, let's say only a couple of feet off the property line, do they need to get a variance for that?
I would say generally yes. It would probably be considered a structure, and then thus needing to meet the setback requirements.
Okay. And I'm only asking because the sidewalk surrounding this pool puts that distance at 6.5 feet versus 9.5 feet if you did not count that sidewalk. That's what motivates the question.
I think the town code too reads that it specifically says for swimming pools that like the associated improvements or whatever have to meet the setback requirements as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions from anyone on this application? All right, why don't we open it up to see if there's any questions or comments from anyone in the public on this application. Our process, just for those who maybe haven't been with us before, is anyone can comment on any application. We just ask that you keep your comments directed to the board rather than trying to direct a discussion with the applicant. And keep your comments brief and to the point and give us your name and address. So we'll open it up. Anyone who want to talk to this application?
I don't see anybody yet who's raised their hand, whatever.
Okay. All right, well, Mr. Farr, our process here is when we close the public hearing for an application, that is the end of our ability to receive new evidence and information on the application. We then have 62 days to render a decision, but it's our custom to vote the same evening that we hear applications. So do you have anything else you'd like to add on this?
I don't believe so.
All right. Well, with that, we will close and we'll go to our next application. This is NMS Browncroft LLC. They own property at 3411 Westlake Boulevard. They're seeking a rear setback area variance and a side setback area variance for the construction of an addition to an existing dwelling.
So I had, in my determination, I had noted that they needed a side setback variance of, sorry, let me pull it up. Crap. I think it was 6.5 feet originally. I apologize. With our computer troubles at the town, our file system is a little off. So yeah, originally needed it was 6.51 foot setback from the side, but a recent revision brought it to 10 feet from the side. So they reduced the setback request there, just for you guys. And then Nunzio, if you want to present, or Anthony.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm sorry. Good evening. I presently own a cottage over there at 3411 Westlake Boulevard that is not winterized. And I like to turn it into a home. So in doing so, I'm trying to put in some of the amenities that a house in the neighborhood over there has. I'm surrounded by some nice homes. The reason why I'm asking for the side setback is because I'm already dealing with an existing building, and the most I can put in is a 13-foot garage. Less than 2 feet would allow me to use the garage and be able to open the doors when I get in with it. That's a side setback. In the other setback is just to be able to put in put the expansion in a way that I can make the house the way that I would like it to be. The lot is compromised by just about everything under the sun, from the tree that's got the eagle to a easement right in front of the house that only allows me to go 4 feet without touching the easement. And there is another easement on the north side. So I'm very restricted in the direction that I could bring, the amenities that I want to bring in the house. So that's why I'm asking for the easement. Originally, I was trying to get the garage a little bit bigger, but my neighbor next door had some concerns, so I dropped it down to a minimum of a couple of feet. Going up and down the lake, there's a lot of houses that are excited that this thing is going to be. The house next door, it's got a side loader garage, so it's got a lot of tied back. And I still have 10 feet of the setback.
Hi, everybody. It's Anthony Venezia. I just want to kind of go over a couple of things with this. Looking at the high water line and the sewer line that does run through there, as you can see, there's a 20-foot wide sewer easement. It's a sewer main that splits basically the current house off from the rest of the property to the west. So that is a very large pinch point that we're not allowed to encroach into. So it's kind of forcing us when we're doing an addition to either go north or go south. And you can see there's not a lot of room either way. Without going toward the lake very much. You can see we are limiting our extension toward the lake. It's just when we go south and we go north, on the south side of the property, that water line kind of cuts back in as we go farther south. It pinches us. So that's where that 4084 is kind of holding us. So we're kind of stuck between that high water and that sewer line being kind of the driving factor in what the client is allowed to do on this site. We are doing some extensive stormwater management systems with rain gardens and some dry wells to alleviate any kind of stormwater that will potentially affect the lake. He has agreed to do some like I said, a rain garden and a dry well to work with stormwater that would affect anything that we got going on. But like I said, there's a lot of existing problems for this site to work around.
Anthony, just clarify for me what you were saying. I understand the part about the sanitary easement.
So we have the sanitary easement to the west that runs, it's running north and south. But if you're looking at the lake side with that 4084, you can see that the water line kind of comes out and it comes back. And as we go farther south, that high water line kind of encroaches closer to the house of where it is now. So that's kind of, as we extend the building to the south, in turn, we're really not going any farther closer to the lake than we are now. We're not pushing out. It's just that the lake kind of pushes back in at that angle. You can see on the far right of the map that water line's coming closer in. We're not extending the house out any farther than it's going now. It just happens that when we add on to the south, we get a little closer to the lake for that front setback.
Yeah, no, I understood that. My question is, I just wanted to clarify if you were talking about the water line of the lake or if you were talking about another water line as part of the easement.
The high water line of the lake.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
No, we're dealing with the high water line and then we're dealing with the sewer line.
Yeah. Okay.
And then another reason for the extension, we can't go farther to the north. The farther we go to the north with this project, we create a longer driveway, and then we also get more lot coverage that is involved with the project. So by going to the south and using and asking for that 2 foot of the 12-foot variance for 10 feet, we're keeping our lot coverage down to be below what is required by zoning.
So I kind of get that, this attached garage, right? What's driving that? But with this little bump out addition that gets you the rear setback requirement, is there any reason why that additional square footage can't be added into the main addition that's being proposed on the north end?
Referring, I guess if I'm looking at the drawing over here, are you referring to where the kitchen would be?
I'm not sure what will be in that space, but it's the proposed addition that's just to the east of the proposed attached garage.
That's right. That's where the kitchen would go, Nunzio.
Yeah, that's where the kitchen is. I mean, if I draw a straight line to where the main water line is, I cannot put a kitchen in there.
I think, Terrence, what we're saying is if we take everything that we're planning on doing with the space that's allowed, there's an attached garage that is that in the southwest corner. If we take that out, there's really not enough room for what the client is looking at doing for the site. And if we use the northerly areas to say put the kitchen in or the rest of the space for the project, it would create more lot coverage because we'd have a longer driveway to push in there, and it would just it doesn't work for the layout of the house to have that on the north end. Because
Yeah, and so the kitchen may impact the layout. My question was, I understand why you need the garage where it is. I'm simply saying if you took out the living space on that south portion, kept the garage as planned, and put that additional living space on the north, bumping that out further, it would remove the need for one variance, right? Because that 40.84 would probably be 60 feet to the garage. But there may be internal, you know, layout issues with moving the kitchen or whatever that's planned for the interior of the space. I'm not really familiar with the interior, but.
As far as living space is concerned, this house over here is going to be just, it's not going to have an office. It's not going to have anything other than a kitchen, a dining area, and then a great room. I mean, it's still a summer home, and I'm hoping to spend more time in there. And when the family comes in, you know, you need to be able to accommodate it. So if I squeeze the kitchen someplace else in there, it's going to be tight for the family get together that we have there.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from the board on this application?
I'm just wondering, there was innumerable issues with DEC on this eagle's nest. And I just would like to hear, where are we with this darn thing? I mean, there was all kinds of issues that they came up with, and I don't know if it was just DEC or the county. I like this tree, so.
Yeah, I've had several meetings with the DEC because last year I put in a permanent dock, and any constructions that we got to do on the property, I was advised they were supposed to be done in October, November, and December, because those are the 3 months that the eagle doesn't make. Last year I put in a dock, a permanent dock, and we did it in November and December. I mean, we literally did it with the snow on the ground falling down and working in the water that was cold at the time. I've had the meeting with the DNC a while back, and I told them that I was planning on making the house bigger or back it down and put another house. And they said, as long as you can do it within those 3 months, we will be okay. I called the DEC about a month and a half ago, and the town sent them a copy of the paperwork that we're trying to do in there. Neither one of us got any callback, but I wasn't going to start anything until the DEC is notified formally, and then I get the proper approval from them. I'm not interested to get myself in trouble because of the eagle and the federal rules that they then apply. So I am going to be, I'm planning on it to do the work primarily during those 3 months. What the DEC said, as long as you do the exterior work, the inside, we don't care, because we don't want to make noise during the time that the birds are mating. The way I'd like to do it at this point, because I kind of missed this particular year because it's just getting, I'm losing too much valuable time, is to see if I can get the garage built, the one that is a detached garage, just so that I can use that as a storage and make it a little bit easier from when next year I'm going to be doing the project of enhancing the house.
Terrence, we have Dan Hackett that's on board as a landscape architect and also to talk about that particular tree. I'm going to put him on right now so we can give you a little bit more background on that tree and what we're going to do to protect that cotton that's there.
Great.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Just with the tree, the specification's been written for the addition where to take place, where the excavation would take place for the foundation. Any roots that are severed will be cleanly cut, will be bioplexed, and mycorrhizome will be put in, will be watered as they go in. The base of the tree will be mulched to 4 inches deep, and that is for any foot compaction. There's also an orange fence, snow fence that goes around the tree to protect for compaction. As far as the regulations of the work, that would be controlled by the state and the DEC. I think that's what Nunzio was relating to, is from a time frame standpoint, he may start some of this work, and some of this work may be projected out due to state regulations. However, the protection of that tree is integral to the site and also the state mandate for an endangered species. So that is all in Anthony's sister's hands, who is putting that together now and getting that on the drawings for the planning board. But that is all integral to the inception and creation of this project.
Okay.
To that end, just wanted to say, we got an email earlier today from somebody else at DEC. You guys had seen, or I made available this letter from Luke Scannell, or this email from Luke Scannell. And I reached out to Jocelyn Ferguson, as he said, and she essentially said we need a permit. The same thing, essentially, from Francis Nickmeyer, who we received an email from earlier today, that this would need a DEC permit and to make application and stuff like that. He apparently has not received anything yet, but I know Nunzio is working with him.
All right, what other questions do we have on this application? All right, why don't we open this to the public, see if there's any questions or comments on this application.
Good evening, this is Dave Pack. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Dave, give us your name and address and then your comment.
Yeah, my name is David Pack, and I own the property at 3413 Westlake Boulevard. And first of all, thank you for having these meetings via Zoom. It certainly makes it convenient. My only concern is with the side setback on this. And I just think it's not in keeping with the neighborhood and so on. I mean, we've been a resident down there. My parents bought it in 1965. And it just, to me, it's just a change that I think is not something I'd like to see. So you've got my letter on file and you can go from there.
All right, thank you, David. Any other comments on this application?
Dave, can I ask you a question real quick? I know that you had sent the letter when the application was for 6.5 feet. Does the fact
Correct.
that they changed it 10-foot setback change your mind at all?
It really didn't. I mean, it's a really hard decision. And quite frankly, Nunzio and I have talked about this and he knows my position on it. And he is a great neighbor. And frankly, it's tough for me to have these kinds of conversations because it's, excuse me, that's just a fire alarm. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
So it's just a change to the neighborhood and a character piece, and the lots through that whole neighborhood are so unique and so on from a side setback. I really feel bad about having to voice my opinion on it, but I just hate to see that kind of variance happen. I think it's just not something that has to happen. And I understand the reasons why. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you're aware of the changes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
All right, do we have any other comments from anyone in the audience on this application?
Terrence, I would like to elaborate on David's comments there. Are there any other residences in this proximity that encroach on the side setback as this one does? Anthony, do you know the answer to that question?
I do not know that off the top of my head. I believe there is one or two that are to the north off the Westlake, the portion of the north where Westlake Boulevard splits north and south. I believe that there's been one or two. I can't say for sure. I believe 3505 might have one. That was the most recent place that has been built on Westlake Boulevard to the north.
Is that the new house that's going up?
It's a house that was built probably 4 or 5 years ago, I believe. But as far as exactly knowing what they are, I believe that it's to the north that there's a couple.
None of these things I'm drawing on the screen are exact, obviously. Just indication. I can't see what variances are granted. It's just an indication of what the neighborhood is approximately.
So it looks like, based on what you're showing us, Eric, from the aerial, it appears that some of them are very close to the side property lines.
Yeah, I think it's 3403 and 05 that are the ones that are the tight ones. Most of the rest of that neighborhood seems to be fairly good, but. Any other comments or questions from the board?
Let's see what happens.
All right. Anthony or anyone else on the team for this application, anything else you'd like to provide to the board?
1 second, I think I'm pulling up. I just want to clarify. I believe a variance was granted to Davis, which is 3405. It looks like they have setbacks of like 7 and 5 feet on the 5 feet on the north and 7.2 on the south. And that was done probably around 2011 to 2010. Just for reference, the closest property that would have the variance.
Yep. All right, were we comfortable closing this one, Anthony?
And then just so everyone's aware, this did get a denial from the county planning board. So I need a supermajority.
Yeah, there was on January 17, 2012, there was that property we were talking about before was granted a right setback of 7.2 and a left setback of 5. Just for referencing other projects in the close vicinity.
I think one of the issues, as I recall, if I'm recalling that one correctly, was that they may have actually been over the line at one point and pulled it back to 2 feet. Now that maybe that's not the one I'm thinking of, but it's a very narrow lot, that one.
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't believe that this one was in that situation. It is a narrower lot, but it didn't have the same. We were on the west side of the sewer line for that one, so it didn't have as many problems as this one does. So I just wanted to let the board know that there was one, not so in the distant past that was done. It was only one building over.
Okay. Well, one last ask on this one. Any other questions or comments from the board or additional information from the applicant before we close this public hearing? All right, well, we'll go ahead and close the application then and progress to our next public hearing.
Thank you.
This is for property at 5082 DesignWorks Architecture is representing Gregory Banfield. The applicant seeking a side setback area variance for the construction of an addition to an existing dwelling.
Hi, I'm Chuck Smith. I'm an architect with DesignWorks Architecture. I wanted to introduce the Banfields, Robbie and Greg, and you guys can unmute yourself and say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So, Greg and Robbie, why don't you tell the board just briefly what you're trying to accomplish, and I'll go over the numbers and the design. So.
Are they on? Am I the only one having trouble hearing them?
No, I don't know if they're talking or not, so.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to hear how they vote.
So I don't, Greg and Robbie, if you're saying anything, we can't hear you.
How's that? Better?
There you go.
Got you. Go ahead.
Okay, now we hear you.
Sorry about that.
So did you want us to explain the project a little bit?
Yeah, just explain what you're trying to accomplish, and I'll go over all the numbers and the design. So.
Sure. Okay. So we're just looking to make a couple of changes to the house. We're looking to add towards back there addition for a bathroom, and then we have an existing garage. We're making a connector to that, which is a proposed connection. And then right now it's basically a 1.5 car garage. So we're looking to extend that with a 2 car garage attached to that. So with this, the existing structure will sort of be designed to attach the garages and then the addition to the back, master bath.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So to the members of the board, it's an interesting situation because we've got, right now, we've got a detached garage that meets the 15-foot setback, which is that white existing garage. And the ideal design for the new garage is to center it on the 21-foot existing garage. Our new garage is 26 feet to fit a truck in there. And so when we center it, we're still within zoning. We're 17 feet away from the property line. So we meet the code for setbacks until we connect it. Once we connect it, it's no longer an accessory building. So the 15-foot falls by the wayside, and we have to have a 25-foot setback once we connect this garage. So it's a little bit of a conundrum in that as soon as we connect this garage to the house and it becomes attached, we suddenly are faced with a variance request. So if we can move the garage that we are attaching, as you can see, is quite a ways back from the street. We're almost 215 feet from the property line. So we're well back from the Foster Road right of way. And then if we can have the next slide, we'll go over some more detail. There we go. So you can see on the survey, the existing garage, which is in front of the house. So that's at the 21 by 21 foot garage, which meets code because it's not attached. And then you can see that we have a very deep and wide lot, but it's very deep. So we're quite a ways away from the street. So if we can have the next slide. This shows on the right is the existing garage, and then the new garage, which is its twin, but a little bit bigger. It's a little taller, it's a little wider, but it's centered, so the ridges are centered. And then all the way on the right, you see the little connector between the garages and the house so that the Banfields can get to their garages without going outside in the weather. And then if we go to the next slide, Oh, wrong direction, I think, maybe. Yeah, there's the view of the existing house and the existing detached garage. Our new garage is going to be matched to this one. In fact, we're taking the triangular windows, which was a 1970s feature design of this house, which actually won an architectural award. So we're going to use those windows on the new garage. So the new garage will look just like what we're seeing here in the same position, just in front of it. So this is the approach to the house from the street. And then if I can have the last slide, I'll talk about impact to the neighborhood. So, when you look at the aerial photo here, you can see that on the west side, which is on the left side, we've got a big buffer of trees. That whole lot between the Banfields and the next lot over is all treed. So we're well, the side that we need the setback for this, which is 17 feet instead of 25, we've got a nice buffer to the neighbor. And the neighbor to the east towards the lake on the right is quite a bit forward of this property. And their garage is actually on the same side is on the Banfield side. So their living space is not being impacted by this garage. So we're not affecting the neighborhood in any sense of shadows or sun access or views or drainage. So we're really in good shape and not negatively affecting the neighborhood. So that's my brief introduction to the project, and we can take questions.
All right, do we have any questions from the board on this application?
I'm just wondering why does it need to be centered? The pitches of the roof are not going to, I mean, you're going to have, the lines are not going to match anyway. You have more than 8 feet to move over there towards the east. And my hope, I just try to avoid variances if I can. And that's where I'm from.
Okay, so even if, I'll point out, even if we don't add on to the garage and we attach the existing garage, we now need a variance for an existing garage. So so we can move the garage to be flush on the backside and keep the setback the same as the existing garage. But even that does not create a nice situation, because now we're covering, as we're coming up the driveway, we're covering up the view to the front door as the new garage moves to the right. So.
Go ahead, you can go.
You're on.
No, we're not on mute.
Oh, Chuck, can I add something to that?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We also have a center island, a circular driveway, and Chuck, and you could speak more to this, but I believe if we kept it flushed with the other garage and then came forward, we wouldn't be able to clear the center aisle that goes around with giant dolomite blocks that are there. I mean, I don't think we could clear it to get around. If you see in the picture, if you flush it to the existing garage,
the back of it,
the back to, and then so that the front comes at, it cuts off the getting around the driveway. And then when you back out of that garage, you're going to hit the dolomite rocks.
I think, yeah, basically we'd have to move the driveway to recenter the turnaround to make it wide enough for any plausible turnaround for any vehicle to get through. Because that corner, the front corner of that garage then would be, I don't know what it would be, but I don't think you'd get a vehicle between that and the rock. So everything would have to be shifted east. from the driveway perspective in that center section, stone, you know, and stone section.
We'd have to shift that whole project. We just put in that whole project, the center aisle.
Well, I understand that, you know, it's just, again, there's a reason why we're trying to follow the codes here. And, you know, even I have the equipment to move those stones. So it's something that, you know, if it has to be done, it has to be done. I'm just trying to avoid a variance. I'm just trying to say, is there any way we can look at this design that maybe cuts back on the amount of variance you need? And mostly it's the side setback variances that are an issue, particularly with me, but I'm just asking the questions.
I would have a question.
Dave, thank you, Dave, because that's a question you need to ask to do a proper job, and I understand that, so thank you.
I would have a question, I guess, for the other board members. There was a time when we had an issue with a connection between house and I think it was garage, and everything changes when you have it, when the building becomes one enlarged building. And if I'm hearing you correctly, Chuck, that is an issue with what you have, because that connection is changes the numbers that you have to live with. So I was wondering if any of the other board members remember that. I don't know if we called it a breezeway or if we had something else going on, but I remember there was a narrow gap between the main building and perhaps it was the garage. And somehow, some way, we found a way to make that happen. Does that ring a bell with any of the other board members?
I don't recall that, Bob.
Okay.
I know that there's been, through the past, different definitions of what is or is not attached. You know, at one point it was just a foundation element, roof line or something like that, and now it's having enclosed interior space, I think is what it was, connecting it. Which this one does meet that definition. Terrence, are you still with us?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions from the board? All right, do we have any questions for anyone in the audience? All right. Is the applicant comfortable closing this application?
Robbie and Greg, are you okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. We'll close the application then, and we'll begin our deliberations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for those on the call, just as a reminder, if you haven't been with us, the public hearing is closed. Our deliberations are open to the public, but not open for public participation. It's the board's opportunity to discuss amongst ourselves the pros and cons of the applications and then ultimately vote. So we'll begin in the order in which the applications were presented and start with the property at Daisy Way. Obviously, Canandaigua Farmington Town Line, we continued. So this is the FARS at 3209 Daisy Way. I guess I can offer my thoughts. I don't have any real concern with this application, given the fact that there's a conservation area behind them and it's owned by the town and it's not going to be developed. Their lot is tight and they're not going crazy on the size of the pool.
I would add that they've done a good job getting the neighbors to support their ideas as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think on the previous one we did in this right near there, that issue about the pool not being too close to the house so people wouldn't jump off, I think was also mentioned.
Yeah. All right, do we have any concerns before we vote on this one or any further discussion? Okay. Eric, if you would call it then.
1 second. Okay. All right, so for CPN 20-061, Jamie and Sarah Farr at 3209 Daisy Way, the applicant is requesting an area variance to allow a new structure with a 6.5-foot rear setback when a 10-foot rear setback is required in the PUD zoning district. Shall the applicant be granted a 3.5-foot rear setback area variance? Just want to do one thing real quick. John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Chip?
Yes.
And Terrence?
Yes. Okay, the board's decision is based on the descriptions and drawings provided on the various submission dates that Eric will fill in, and the board has determined that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or the community, and therefore the variance is granted. The board's decision is based upon the following findings of fact. The board has determined that the variance will not negatively impact the character of the neighborhood. There is a conservation area. Eric, is that what this one's actually called, a conservation area, or is it just open space?
I think it's actually a town park. No.
Okay, town park. All right. So the parcel borders a town park. There will be no impacted neighbors to the rear. That portion of the park is also undeveloped. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add in the findings of fact portion?
The support of the neighbors, is that worth mentioning?
We can. Anytime you reference that, though, it gets you maybe in a little bit of trouble because you can't base a decision on support or opposition.
Understood.
Is that indication of the adverse or lack thereof impact on the property or neighborhood? So like number 4 there?
I think it's evidence of it, but we ultimately have to make that decision whether we think it's going to negatively impact. That's why I tend to want to shy away from what the neighbors, whether they support or oppose. But let's add that in there, that there was substantial support from the neighbors for the application. And then in terms of our conditions, 1 and 2, we'll include those. And just for those who may be on the call, those standard conditions say that the variance is granted specific to the plan submitted to the ZBA, and any change in that plan will invalidate the variance. And that the variance is conditioned upon a building permit being issued within 1 year of the date the variance is granted, and that if you don't get the building permit within that 1 year, then the variance is invalid.
2 more to discuss.
All right, next up, we have 3411 Westlake.
Here it is, honey.
Any discussion on this one for the board?
This one would be hard to condition, Terrence, wouldn't it? I mean, in view of the fact that DEC do they just take over for this? If it was totally permitted, obviously the side setback's an issue for me. I hate to be a broken record, but if it was totally permitted and for us to do within a year, how's this going to work? He's got more problems here than I could ever invent. I'm sorry, I will never allow an eagle nest to go on my property. you know, but I give him all the credit in the world. He's trying to work with DEC on this thing, and it is an endangered species. But I'm just, how do you condition this thing?
Well, we could certainly condition it with our first standard condition. The second one may be a little challenging, but I think it would be fine because we're just conditioning it upon the issuance of the building permit. I don't think that would be delayed by the DEC, right, Eric? The actual construction efforts may be slowed.
Yeah, I would think so. And generally, I think the planning board would also condition it on the DEC issuing a permit or whatever, meaning that they meet the requirements of the DEC. So permits probably wouldn't be issued until DEC gives their okay anyways. Your desk is sinking.
I do think, to your points, David, that the lot is very restrictive in terms of the easements. And so he does have those challenges that he's working against. And it also appears from the aerial shots that there are some neighboring properties that have maybe a lesser side setback or just as tight a side setback that this property will eventually have. And I think they've tried to appease the neighbors' concerns by minimizing that variance request to a couple of feet. So I think that they've worked hard to accommodate the concerns of the neighbor.
My view of this neighborhood as I drive up and down that road is that I think there's a certain feel, and I think that's what Mr. Pat was trying to describe, that the majority of those homes do have a little bit of distance between them, which gives it a little bit more open feel. There are certainly some exceptions that John identified, but it's one of those situations where maybe the feel of the neighborhood is a little bit different than what's allowed, right? Allowed is only 10-foot setbacks. Most of them have quite a bit more, but it is a relatively modest variance of 2 feet, or I guess it's 12 feet is what's allowed, right? And this one's asking for 10. But, you know, it could have an impact on the character of the neighborhood.
The neighborhood is one of those that's sort of transitioning also from summer cottages to year round.
Mm-hmm. Bob, any thoughts on this one?
I actually a lot of thoughts, but I'm not sure about the conclusion. I appreciate the mention of the rain garden and the. I think we could, you know, that could be, if this succeeds, that could be mentioned, and the dry well. Those sound good if they're kept up, and people are, you know, stick with that commitment. I've been down that road too, and I feel the same way. Visually, it's an impressive neighborhood with the space in between the houses. So that's the only thing I'm wrestling with. And John is correct with the exceptions. You know, there are somehow on some lots it is tighter, but in general, what I've felt visually is that the neighborhood identity has to do with that airiness between the buildings or between the lots.
Chip, I don't know if we heard from you yet. We may have.
I had mentioned, I think that certainly the houses are getting larger in that area. It's mainly to the north that they're closer together. And those are also somewhat narrower lots, I believe. You know, they brought it back to a 2-foot variance. I think it doesn't look like they can bring it back much farther without really not doing any of the things they want to do. So I guess I don't have any major issue.
Okay. Well, Bob, are you ready to vote?
Yeah, could I just have Eric put the aerial on one more time where we could take a look at the neighborhood? So as you were saying, Chip, it's a neighborhood in transition too, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, what was and what's what the future is bringing us.
Eric, do you know which home was the Davis property that a variance request was granted?
3405.
So one neighbor to the north, not the immediate neighbor, but one beyond that.
Yeah.
Part of that was driven by the 51-foot width of the lot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one where I wonder how did that lot ever get created? That shouldn't even be a lot.
Yeah.
It should be part of 3403, but
3407 for sure.
And that was kind of my point. You have that little cluster there, 3403 and 05, that are kind of right on top of each other, but the rest of that neighborhood is pretty good. But why don't we call this, Eric? I think this is going to be a difficult one, no matter how long we mull it over.
Okay. Okay. For CPN 20-062, the owner is NMS Browncroft LLC. At 3411 Westlake Boulevard. The applicant is requesting an area variance to construct a principal building addition with a 40.84-foot rear setback when a 60-foot rear setback is required in the RLD zoning district. Shall the applicant be granted a 19.16-foot rear lake setback area variance? John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Chip?
Yes.
Terrence?
Yes.
Do you want me to call the next one and then we'll go through conditions then, I assume?
Yeah, call the next one. It's going to be the same wording for each.
Applicant is requesting an area variance to, same owner, same project, Applicant is requesting an area variance to construct a principal building addition with a 10-foot side setback when a 12-foot side setback is required in the RLD zoning district. Shall the applicant be granted a 2-foot side setback area variance? John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Chip?
Yes.
And Terrence?
Yes.
Okay.
The board's decision is based on the descriptions and drawings provided on the submission dates that Eric will fill in. And the board has determined that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or the community. Therefore, the variance is granted. Specific findings of fact, the board has determined that this variance is keeping with the character of the neighborhood. There are other parcels in the neighborhood that have even smaller side setbacks. The variance will not change the character of the neighborhood because of those similar properties. This is a minimal variance from what is allowed by town code, which is 12 feet, and they're asking for a variance of only 2 feet. Because of the configuration of the lot, including the location of sanitary sewer easements and the contour of the lakefront, it limits the locations for the proposed addition. In addition, the board has determined that the topography and other natural features limit potential sites for the proposed structure. And then we'll put in the 2 standard conditions that's limited to the most recent plans, and any change to the plan will invalidate the variance, and the variance is conditioned on a building permit being issued within 1 year. Failure to obtain the building permit within that time period will invalidate the variance. All right, great. Next, we are going to the property at 5082 Foster Road. And I guess on this one, I don't really have any opposition. You've got that great buffer of trees on the west side of the property. And I sympathize with the fact that the location of the detached garage, is impacted once you attach it to the house, because the number changes in terms of the required setback. But others have concerns that we should consider. I'm always happy to listen to other opinions.
I would just have a note to Eric. Maybe at ordinance we could discuss the decision by a homeowner to attach the primary building to a garage, because if it wasn't for that event, we wouldn't have had to deal with this ordinance. And I'm just wondering if we need to revisit that, but I don't have the language, in my mind what the code would say. Would that be okay, Eric?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay.
I guess I just have the question: if they weren't putting in the connection, would the adding of the accessory building be too large? Just for my own curiosity. Isn't there something with regard to how big an accessory structure can be?
Yeah, the maximum is like 3,000 square feet, and because this lot is pretty large, it would probably be a 3,000 square foot maximum total building footprint, and they should be well under that.
Okay.
Two points that really struck me about this conversation about this variance that I thought were important were one, not burying that front entrance behind the garage, I thought was an important part of the conversation. And also the layout of the driveway. And yes, it could be changed, but I think that that's an added cost and an added inconvenience. But really what struck me was covering that front entrance and not being able to see it with that garage if you were to push it further away from that rear sides or the rear setback there.
All right, well, why don't we call this one then, Eric?
Okay, with application number CPN 20065, DesignWorks Architecture for Gregory Banfield at 5082 Foster Road. The applicant is requesting an area variance to construct a principal building addition with a 17-foot side setback when a 25-foot side setback is required in the R120 zoning district. Shall the applicant be granted an 8-foot side setback area variance? John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Chip? Chip, you there?
Chip's on mute. Sorry, Chip.
Sorry. Yes, sorry.
The drama. Terrence?
Yes. All right, the board's decision is based on the descriptions and drawings provided on the dates that, the submission dates that Eric will provide. And the board has determined that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or the community. Therefore, the variance is granted. This parcel has a significant wooded buffer to the west, which will essentially eliminate any impact on views to the neighboring parcel. In addition, it is, I forgot the distance there, it's like 200 and something feet off the road. Could you fill in that exact distance for me?
215.
215 feet off of the road. This neighborhood is characterized by long, narrow lots running lengthwise south to north or north to south. And will not be out of the character of the neighborhood. Anything else anyone wants to add on that one? Okay, we'll leave it there then, Eric, and we'll add our 2 standard conditions that the variance has to be, or is specific to the most recent plan. Any change in the plan will validate the variance and its condition on a building permit being issued within 1 year. And failure to get the building permit within 1 year won't validate the variance. All right, in terms of other board business, Eric sent around the minutes from our last meeting in September, on September 15th. Does anyone have any changes to those minutes, or if not, a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Chip, a second?
Second.
Second from Bob, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. Eric, we have any requests for rehearing?
No, we do not.
Okay. The referrals from the town board.
We have, yeah, we have a couple. We have the NRI law, and I would normally pull them up, and this is, I apologize, it's going to limit my ability to do this. When we were hacked last week, we lost a lot of our files and documents. The NRI law really is a the most minor change that you can think of. It just changes the definition of the natural resource inventory. It currently calls out the plan adopted in 2011. This change just changes it to say 2020 or whenever it would be adopted. Yep. There you go. So that's the only change in this definition of NRI. I assume the board doesn't have any comment on this one.
Nope.
Next up was which one? Off-street parking. I can walk through the changes if you'd like, but you guys have seen this before. Don't believe it's changed substantially since the last time you guys have seen it. Do you want me to walk through it?
You're saying there's no significant change?
Not since the last time you've seen it. So I can walk through all the changes of the draft if you want.
I don't know. I mean, I'm good since last time we saw it. Does anyone else want to go through it again?
No. Okay.
Okay.
And then finally, a change that you all have not seen is for short-term rentals. So essentially the intent of this draft, let me back up. We've noticed in the past that there are short-term rentals in the town that can be problematic, potentially from noise, but most often from overloading septic systems or building or kind of developing the house without permits, adding bedrooms and other things without meeting building code. When the town goes to issue violation notices, a lot of times their ownership is an LLC or something, and it's difficult to reach the owner. So what this local law is intended to do is require the registration of short-term rentals. It's relatively simple. Generally, it just requires that we have contact information. The requirements for the application, street address, name and contact information for the person managing the property, and that's pretty much it. Signed acknowledgement. The fee would be set by the town board, and it would be good for 1 year terms.
So Eric, is there a fee attached to this?
Well, hypothetically is a fee, but it's not within the local law. The town board adopts its fee sheet or its fees every January. So there's no fee noted as part of the local law. The town board would have to set that.
Is this like for Airbnb or for anything like that?
Yeah, it's for
any short-term rental.
This just seems like another encumbrance for people that want to make a few extra bucks on their property. To me, if you're looking for input, another fee structure, another code checkout. I mean, if there's a noise issue, you've already got that covered.
We don't actually have a noise ordinance.
No? Okay. Maybe you should get a noise one.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one either, Eric. When I was representing the city, I drafted their ordinance on this issue, and I don't know, it was just an enforcement challenge trying to identify all these temporary short-term rentals. They tend to migrate to other websites, and then you have to try to assign somebody at town hall to search for them. And I agree with John. I think it's an unnecessary intrusion on people's private property rights, but that's just my feeling.
I remember our discussions in ordinance, and of course, one of the big fears is that somebody will have a fire and maybe even a loss of life because they're overloading a basement without proper egress, that kind of thing. But the other problem we've seen, not just with short-term rentals, but with zombie homes, is trying to find the contacts for who's in charge and what's going on. So I can see all of this coming into play. I think this is going to be the one we're going to keep revisiting because we're going to have trouble staying on top of this anyway. There is no easy solution because it's a changing situation. And what Dave said, it's absolutely true that some people, just to pay their taxes, feel the need to rent out their space to maintain on the lake, and we shouldn't lose sight of that.
Certainly my understanding is that the intent of this and the fee, although it's certainly not set yet, is not to be prohibitive or to stop people from doing it.
Yeah, I get that. Just still post. I think we've got a building code that addresses the safety of dwelling space and all that. I don't know why somebody's got to register with the town to rent their property. That should be their own business, but that's just my view.
Okay, then we'll note those comments if there's nothing else.
Okay. Do you want to give us a quick preview of November?
Sure. This is a large application. There's a lot to it, but Mahar Engineering representing the applicant on County Road 16, but the lot is kind of on Alinda Drive. It's a vacant parcel. Well, it's not quite vacant right now. There's a kind of a very small cottage, but code classified dwelling on the lake. They're requesting a setback variance from Alinda Drive, lot coverage variance, and also a use variance because, like I said, there's already one dwelling on the lot, and they want a second dwelling. That I don't want to bias anyone in the application, so I'll let you investigate and see as you do as you see fit.
Are they aware of the challenges of getting a use variance?
Yes, I've tried to make them aware of that.
Okay.
Yep. Hanlon Architects for property owner on Sandy Beach Drive. This property you guys have actually seen before for a couple different variance requests. The most recent one they actually didn't end up constructing, but right now they sold the property. It's a new property owner, and they want to put an addition on. They're requesting a setback variance from Sandy Beach and also a lot coverage variance. This one may need a variance. The determination hasn't been done yet. There was actually an illegal subdivision on this lot 22 years ago now, which came to our mind when they made application for a further subdivision. The parcel's been transferred. It's a really weird situation, but they might need a lot size variance for this lot that's already been subdivided off illegally and sold to somebody else, but to attempt to rectify this variant or illegal subdivision. Rich Krebs and Marks Engineering believe they need a setback variance and a building coverage variance for an addition to the house. That's it. And the one we continued tonight on Mobile Road.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Well, I've got 7:40. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned until November. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Sorry I was late.
No problem. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.